welcome to another edition of Active Living. We're fortunate again today to have a wonderful guest. Here's Joe Johnson here. Joe has just returned from a fabulous trip on the West Coast, and we'd like to hear a little bit about your experience out there, Joe. I understand you've run into some fantastic movie stars.
Well, every time I go to Hollywood, which is my favorite place to visit, I always have a fantastic experience. I love going every chance I get. I've been there about 7 times since I lived out there back in 1990.
Okay.
And every time I go back, I do movie studio tours or all the touristy attractions, and I always have great experiences to share with people.
But I bet it's exciting to meet people that you've probably seen on television and
sure.
or in the movies and actually meet these people in person, you know?
Yeah, to meet my heroes and the people I've grown up with, it's something I really enjoy.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, who did you run into?
Well, on the first day, a friend of mine and I went out there, and she got a condo on Highland Street within walking distance of Hollywood Boulevard. It's right in the heart of everything. And so the first day we were out there, which was March 20th, I just decided to go for a walk, and I stumbled onto something accidentally. So as you can see here in the photo, there's a TV show that's been on the CW for 14 seasons, if you can believe it. It's called Supernatural. And as I was walking along Hollywood Boulevard, I stumbled onto this scene where they had the car from the TV show, this Impala, and the Scooby-Doo van. And it turns out they were promoting a recent episode of Supernatural where the characters get sucked into a TV and appear in an episode of Scooby-Doo.
Oh, really?
And it was awesome. And so the entire cast from the TV show was there, and they posed for photos and greeted fans. It was a really great experience, and I just accidentally
You just stumbled onto this, right?
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's the kind of thing that happens to me in Los Angeles. So.
Lucky you, huh?
Exactly. The next day, I got tickets to see the Conan O'Brien show. And that was actually my 3rd visit to Conan O'Brien. His tickets are fairly easy to get. I'm
Really?
not sure why they're so easy to get. His first guest was Judd Apatow, who's a comedian and a director who's directed shows like The 40-Year-Old Virgin,
Right.
Bridesmaids, and other movies like that. The second guest was an actress named Kristen Ritter, who's on a TV show called Jessica Jones. I think it's on Netflix. And seeing a live show in person in Hollywood is one of the fun things to do if you ever get out to Hollywood. It's really fun being part of that.
But I'm amazed you got tickets. Did you get tickets after you got out there, or did you order them before you went out?
No, reserve them ahead of time, but believe it or not, they're free.
Really?
To see a TV show in LA, tickets are free. You
Okay.
just have to get to the right website. You put in your request. They let you know if you've gotten them.
Right.
And you show up, you stand in line, you get seated, and the show starts just like that. It's
Fantastic.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've over the past several years, past decade or so, I've been in the audience for the Jimmy Fallon show.
Oh.
I saw David Letterman in New York, and other shows, and it's something I really enjoy doing.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah.
Now, do they have a warm-up comedian come out before the show starts
They
and
always
start
have a
working
comedian
the
come
crowd?
out, work the
Yeah,
crowd up in a
yeah.
frenzy. At the Conan show, they bring people. They'll take volunteers from the audience and put them on the set, and then they have them do like a dance contest.
Oh, really?
And then they hand out free T-shirts. And
Yeah.
the band plays and riles everybody up,
Yeah.
and then Conan comes out, and everyone goes crazy.
Yeah, I bet.
So,
It
yeah.
sounds great.
Now, another thing that I accidentally stumbled on, this was later that same night after I saw Conan, was Grauman's Chinese Theater was having the world premiere of the sequel to Pacific Rim. It's called Pacific Rim Uprising. And all the stars walk the red carpet and talk to the cameras and the press, and that was a lot of fun.
And you were there for that?
I was on the sidewalk kind of looking across the street at all the stars parading by.
Really?
And
Wow.
again, it was just a fluke. I saw that they were having the premiere. I asked someone at Grauman's, I said, when are you having the premiere? And they said, that's tomorrow. So I showed up, and there were all the stars walking the red carpet.
Fantastic.
One, I was excited about seeing Charlie Day. He's an actor and a comedian. He was on a show called Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And then there's an actor named John Boyega who plays Finn in the new Star Wars movies.
Okay.
And I'm a big Star Wars fan, so to see an actor from the Star Wars movies up close and personal, that's a lot of fun.
That's great.
So
Wow.
it's always cool to catch a movie premiere. And believe it or not, this is my second movie premiere. Back in 2005, I accidentally stumbled onto Sandra Bullock's movie premiere. And not only did we get to see the stars from the movie, we were invited to come in and sit down at the movie premiere. And we got to watch Miss Congeniality 2 with Sandra Bullock. Isn't that awesome?
And so she was actually there.
She was there,
Oh,
all
wow.
her co-stars and everything. And then the next day we saw her get her star on the Walk of Fame.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I'm telling you, I have really good luck whenever I go to Hollywood.
Sounds like it.
The next day, I wandered over to the Hollywood Museum, which was in walking distance from the condo I was staying at. And the reason I wanted to go there is they have a temporary exhibit set up right now dedicated to the old Batman TV show. So they had collectibles and toys on display. They had costumes from the TV show on display, a replica of the original Batmobile. And it was really neat to see props and costumes and collectibles from the old TV show. I'm a big fan.
You know, I got to tell you, I still watch that show every Saturday morning.
Yeah?
It's on channel 2-4 here locally, and I watch, and I get so many laughs out of watching those guys work.
Yeah.
It's really a fun show.
It is, and I grew up with it in syndication, and I just love the show. So it was really neat to see all those things up close and personal. They're only on display through April, and then they're going to change up the exhibit there.
Right.
So I was glad I got a chance to go out there and see it. So the highlight of my stay was being invited to a movie premiere at the Egyptian Theater, which is on Hollywood Boulevard, just down the street from Grauman's Chinese Theater. And the movie is called The Last Movie Star, starring Burt Reynolds. And it's the story of an aging actor at the end of his career. He gets invited to a film festival celebrating his work, and things don't quite go as he expected. So at the movie premiere, the day of the movie premiere, the stars started showing up, and to my pleasant surprise, Chevy Chase, who has a role in the movie, was the first one to show up.
Really?
So here you see him going down the gauntlet of reporters, taking questions and walking the red carpet. And I got to meet him and say hi to Chevy Chase, which is a big thrill for me. An actor named Clark Duke, who is in a lot of things that I enjoy. Most recently, he was on a TV series called I'm Dying Up Here about the stand-up comedy circuit back in LA in the 70s.
Right.
But he's been in a lot of other movies. He was on The Office as a recurring character. So he was nice enough to pose for a photo with me. And then I got to meet my
the man,
idol, my hero, Burt Reynolds himself. He showed up last, of course, to make the big entrance. And he's getting around a little slower nowadays. He walks with a cane. His career as a stunt person and doing his own stunts, and he played football in college. Those things have taken a bit of a toll on him. So he's a little slower now, but he's still witty and charming and flirting with the ladies. He's still got it.
How old is he now, anyway?
He is 82 years old.
Oh, he's a young guy.
So, yeah. So even though he's moving a little slower, he's still Burt.
He still looks good, though.
Yeah. Here he is on, and he just completed the red carpet. Now they're just posing for pictures. The gentleman in the glasses there, he's the producer of the film, Neil Mant. He's from Michigan.
Really?
He was a student of my friend Donna, the woman who invited me out there. He was her high school student. He went out to LA, became a big movie producer.
Really?
And invited Donna out to the premiere, and she brought me along.
Fantastic.
So there he is with Burt posing for photos. And then after the movie, which I really enjoyed, by the way, they did a Q&A in the movie theater.
Okay.
So the entire cast sat in underneath the screen after the movie was over, took questions from the crowd, were interviewed by a former LA Times entertainment reporter. You see Ariel Winter to the right of Burt Reynolds there. She used to be on a show called Modern Family.
Right.
And now she's acting on all different sorts of stuff. So. And there's
surrounds
Clark.
himself with good-looking ladies, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sure does. He loves the ladies. So it was really cool seeing them take questions and talk about the movie. That was a really big highlight. And then, to my surprise, as if the movie premiere wasn't enough, after the movie was over, we found out that we were invited to the post-movie VIP party.
Really?
And
wow.
there's Burt talking to my friend Donna. He's sitting on this sofa here. That's Mary Lou Henner to his right. And he was just sitting there meeting with people, posing for pictures. Could not have been more friendly and cordial and nice, accommodating everybody's requests. And I ended up sitting on that sofa a little ways down from Burt. And as I had conversations with other people, I kept looking to my right going, my God, that's Burt Reynolds right there, you know? So that was a really, really big thrill. And he was nice enough, I brought with me a die-cast car from Smokey and the Bandit, and he was nice enough to sign it for me. So that's a jewel in my collection. It says, "Love ya, Burt Reynolds," which is the same thing he wrote in his cement slab over at Grauman's Chinese Theater back in 1981. So he wrote the same thing on my die-cast car, which I thought was pretty
nice.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can see in the bottom right corner of this picture here is a replica of the Bandit Trans Am from Smokey and the Bandit. And believe it or not, I'm partly responsible for having that car at the movie theater.
Really?
I have a friend in LA who heads a car club of people who own cars from television and film. We have a similar group here in Michigan, and there's a group in LA. And so I contacted the guy who heads up the club, and I said, hey, Burt Reynolds making a personal appearance at the Egyptian Theater. So he contacted a guy that lives in San Diego that has this beautiful I think it's a 78 Pontiac Trans Am, and he drove it all the way up from San Diego, parked it in front of the movie theater.
Right.
Now the cool thing is as I was talking to the owner, his name's Tony, he says it was his dream to have Burt sign the glove box, because already on the glove box was Sally Field's autograph. And the way he got Sally Field's autograph was his car was used in a skit during the Oscars a few years ago, where Sally Field left the Oscars, got into the Bandit Trans Am, and drove off. So he had Sally Field's autograph, and he was crossing his fingers hoping that Burt was going to sign the glove box. Well, luckily Burt, when he showed up on Saturday for a showing of Smokey and the Bandit, he climbed inside the car and signed Tony's glove box. So now he has a Bandit replica signed by Burt Reynolds and Sally Field.
Fantastic.
Isn't that a great story?
Probably added some value to the car,
I
sure.
would imagine, sure, even though these cards are pricey to begin with. But yeah, having those two signatures on that car, I was so happy for the owner. It was a dream come true for him. So and then, go ahead.
He drove all the way up from San Diego?
San Diego. He
drives how far is that trip?
It's a couple hours. It's about 2 to 3 hour drive from San Diego to LA.
So he drove it all the way up and back?
Yeah, exactly.
But he got the signature, though.
He did. He got his signature.
Great.
And so as the rest of the week wind down, one of the things I enjoy doing in LA is going to comedy clubs. And for a $15 ticket, you can see the greatest names in comedy. On Friday night, my friend and I went to the Hollywood Improv on Melrose. We saw David Spade, who used to be on Saturday Night Live. And so, yeah, it was just a great night. And you could see really talented comedians. There's Sarah Silverman on the bottom of the screen, really big name in comedy.
Was she there?
She was a surprise pop-in.
Wow.
And that happens a lot when you go to a comedy club in L.A., is you'll see the lineup of comedians, and then they'll say, oh, we have a special guest for you, and a big name will show up and try some new material. Wow. So Sarah just popped in, did some new material, and it was really awesome to see her live.
She's a big name, you're right.
Yeah, so you get a lot of that in LA. And I wanted to share this. This is something I really wanted to do, is there's a thing in LA called Angel's Flight. It's the world's shortest train ride, basically.
Okay.
And you board it on Hill Street, and it takes you up to the next street, which is like one level up. It was originally built in 1901. Wow. And ended up moving locations. I think it was on the same street. It was closed for a long time because there was an accident that had killed somebody, and they only recently reopened it last year. And so I was really happy to be able to ride on Angel's Flight. So it's a really historic thing to see in Los Angeles.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and I think, and this is just some pictures from the final, the last day I was out there, Saturday. They showed Smokey and the Bandit at the same theater, and Burt returned to do a Q&A about Smokey and the Bandit. So imagine this. This is surreal. I'm sitting in the theater watching Smokey and the Bandit, and to my right, I see Burt Reynolds enter, and he's standing there watching himself on the movie screen.
Right.
Now, I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting in the theater watching Smokey and the Bandit with Burt Reynolds, and that was an amazing experience.
Oh, that's great.
So, yeah.
And I suppose the movie was probably just as good the third or fourth time you saw it as it was the first time, right?
More like 100 times, I think.
Oh, is that right?
I've seen Smokey and the Bandit. I mean, it was released in 1977, the same year Star Wars came out.
Right.
I was 10 years old when it came out. And I've seen it countless times,
Yeah.
Jackie Gleason's
Oh, yeah,
performance. And so, to see it with a live audience again and having them laugh out loud
Right.
and clapping and cheering, and when Bert came in, the whole place gave him a standing ovation.
Really?
It's something I will never forget.
Oh, that's great.
I'll cherish those memories forever.
What a great trip.
Yeah. And that's how LA goes for me. Every time I go out there, I have really good luck and
Yeah.
run into celebrities, and I just love it. There's so much to see and do out there.
It's a fabulous city.
Yeah.
I was out there once, and they actually had an earthquake when I was out there.
Yeah?
It wasn't a big one, but it was a little one. I was out there, and we're on this big office building, and all of a sudden, this thing starts to shake a little bit. Somebody said, "Hey, we're having an earthquake." I said, "Really?" I said, "It's not."
Yeah, that happened to me when I lived out there.
Yeah.
I'd taken some friends to Venice Beach, and we saw people gathered around a TV monitor. We said, "What's going on?" They said there was an earthquake back in Upland, which is where I was living at the time.
Oh, really?
We said, "Oh, we missed it." But when we went back to my apartment the next day, we had the aftershock, and I was sleeping. And the thing I remember about it is I was rolling.
Really?
When you see an earthquake in a movie, you think it's just shaking,
right.
but it's waves, it's ripples.
Right.
And so I was rolling back and forth going, what is going on? And then I heard the car alarms go off.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, this must be an aftershock.
Wow.
It's something you'll never forget.
Well, LA is a terrific city, and
Yeah.
like you say, you get a chance to go to some of these TV shows.
Yep.
Get a chance to see all the movie stars. What a great time.
Yeah, and there's several studios that offer tours. My favorite is Paramount Studios. I've toured Paramount 3 or 4 different times, and each time is unique and different.
Yeah.
They take you on to TV show sets. Back in 1990, when I was touring Paramount, we got to watch the entire cast of Cheers rehearse.
Oh, really?
They all had scripts in their hands, and they were running through lines, and that was amazing.
Oh, that must have been great.
Our tour guide took us on to the set of the Brady Bunch. We stood in the living room of the Brady Bunch.
That's great.
So Paramount's my favorite place to visit. I recommend Sony Studios, which used to be MGM Studios.
Right.
So imagine as you're touring, the tour guide points to a soundstage and says, this is where The Wizard of Oz was filmed.
Right.
I mean, as a movie fan, that doesn't get much better than
Right.
that. And then Warner Brothers has a really fantastic tour too. It's a walking tour, part tram, part walking.
Yeah.
And you get to see a lot of cool locations, and they have exhibits like Batman exhibits and stuff like that, and vehicles on display.
Right.
So I recommend any of those studio tours if you get a chance.
We were out there years ago, and we saw actually where Jaws was filmed.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And they had the mechanical Jaws, And
Now that was Universal, I think.
I think
Universal
so. Yeah.
Studio.
Yeah.
had
Right.
that, yeah.
So we toured that area, but the interesting thing to me was that all the shots that were done on the movie Jaws were actually done in a little pond. It was probably no more than 700 or 800 yards big.
Oh, sure.
And you saw all these scenes on this ship or on the boat that they had out there with Jaws, being shot in this little pond, basically.
That's movie magic.
So it's
as
movie
they call it.
magic.
Yeah.
But today, with all of the computerized stuff, they can do just about anything.
Yeah, exactly. And but one of my favorite things to do, and we talked about this on the last time I was here, is I like visiting the movie locations, places where they filmed movies. And one of my favorite films that came out recently was La La Land.
Oh, right.
And I visited several locations that were featured in La La Land. So,
Yeah, it's great. Go tell us a little bit about some of these studios that you visited.
Well, there's several studios in LA that give tours, and one of my favorites, as you can see here, is Paramount Pictures.
Right.
Such a historic location where Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis did their movies. Bob Hope, Bing Crosby. So many stars have walked the grounds of Paramount Pictures. This was the famous Bronson Gate, where people would line up to hope to be an extra or to fill roles in movies. It's a pretty famous gate to the movie theater. There's a prop room that they take you in, and they have props from old movies and recent movies. You see me here posing with Optimus Prime from the Transformers movies, just sitting right out there where people could just walk right up and take pictures with it. It's really amazing.
Wow.
Bumblebee, this was a sort of a promotional piece that was used to promote the Transformers movies. Star Trek transporter that was used in one of the recent Star Trek movies. You know, I asked the tour guide, I'm like, is it okay to walk in there? And she said, yeah, go ahead, walk in there. So you could actually interact with these props.
Right.
This is actually one of the I should say, the very first movie studio in LA. It's the Lasky DeMille barn, where Cecil B. DeMille rented this barn and filmed the very first studio movie in Hollywood called The Squaw Man. And it's amazing to me that they somehow saved it, preserved it, and is now something you can visit. It's pretty amazing that it still exists.
Right. Wow.
Another place I love visiting in LA is the Griffith Observatory. You can see it behind me.
Right.
I just recently, when I was there 2 weeks ago, did the planetarium thing where you lean back and stare at the ceiling, and they put on a show. It was really spectacular. I really recommend it. And it gives you spectacular views of LA,
look at
as
that.
you can see here. That's taken from the observatory, and you just can't beat that view. You got pretty much a 360-degree view of LA and the Hollywood sign. They got a bust of James Dean there because that's where he filmed Rebel Without a Cause.
Right.
They filmed some scenes there, and you can see the Hollywood sign in the background. There's the observatory.
Shots,
It's just a beautiful historic place to visit. Pretty awesome. Just driving by, there's so much to see and do. Mel's Drive-In, nice little diner to grab some food at. At the Comedy Club, you never know who you're going to bump into. This is Pauly Shore. Used to be a pretty big name in the 80s. He hasn't done much lately, but his mother, Mitzi Shore, owns the Comedy Store in Hollywood.
Okay.
And so it's not uncommon to walk up and see Pauly hanging out and posing for photos. So you never know who you're going to run into. This is at Paramount, sitting on the bench that was used in Forrest Gump. More comedians. This is Melissa Villaseñor. She's on Saturday Night Live. Daryl Hammond, who used to be on Saturday Night Live. Now he's the announcer on Saturday Night Live. Now, I didn't take these pictures because you're not allowed to take pictures, but these are pictures that the Hollywood Improv took and provided. But like I said, there's me and Daryl posing outside of the Improv.
That's great.
And then I'm a big Batman fan. Imagine my luck standing on the sidewalk and the Batmobile from the Justice League comes by on a trailer.
Wow.
I mean, what are the odds of that it would just pull up as I'm standing there? So that just kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that I run into when I'm in LA.
That's terrific. Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a trip out there one of these days. Another trip.
I love it.
It's been a long time.
Yeah. If you go in the early spring, you got to be careful because the weather doesn't always cooperate in March. It was pretty rainy the week I was out there. I would recommend going out there April, May, June. That's when it's just perfect out there.
Okay. Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, Joe, it's been a pleasure having you on our show.
Always
Thank you
a
so
pleasure
much.
seeing you, George.
It's great hearing all these stories about all of your travels and escapades on the West Coast.
Hoping to get out there again soon, and I'll have more stories.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.